The evacuation of Afghanistan is finally being exposed and people want answers, and it's about time. First things first, I say thank you to the fallen service members who sacrificed their life during the evacuation of Afghanistan, and I hope we get answers as to what the heck happened. So here's what's going on. As we all know, the evacuation of Afghanistan was one of those things that you're like, whoa, what just happened? And the Foreign Affairs Committee agrees with you. They are performing an investigation as to what happened. Why did the entire Afghan government crumble in a matter of days? Why was President Biden confident with evacuating Afghanistan even though he was told, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this? These are all of the questions that need to be answered, and here's exactly what's going on. Again, I'm going to try and break this down for you. Now, from today's perspective, it's very easy to say, why were we in Afghanistan? That whole thing was dumb, but the mission was rather successful from the initial entry into Afghanistan. The Taliban were toppled, we didn't get Osama, but we're in Afghanistan, everything looks okay. So from here, what do? We just toppled the Taliban. Afghanistan doesn't really have a government. Maybe we can stay in Afghanistan, help these people, give them education, give them jobs, and for the most part, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good deal. Now, I need to give you this context because everything will make sense. At this time, between 2004-2005, the Iraq war is popping off, it's getting bad, and we are getting complacent in Afghanistan. And what happens? The Taliban come back into Afghanistan with full force. They essentially recapture major territories. Now, the common theme from 2005 Afghanistan up until the evacuation of Afghanistan, what are we doing in this country? And not only that, we start to see promises. The interpreters who work with the U.S., we are going to help you. We're going to give you schools, Afghanistan. We will protect you. To the GWAT veterans, which is the Global War on Terrorism veterans, the phrase is hearts and minds, hearts and minds. We are going into that country and we are going to make them love us, essentially. But realize this, there was a relationship between the United States military forces and other foreign forces and the Afghanis. It's not like everyone hated the US, but this is where things start to go wrong. When you go into a foreign country and you start to give promises, you need to honor those promises because in Afghanistan, it's life or death. Some promises the Americans gave Afghanis: if you were an interpreter for US forces, we will give you American citizenship. If you were a village and you had tribal elders and you give us information on the Taliban, we will help you guys and give you extra protection. And remember, because Afghanistan was a partner to the United States, a lot of Americans actually went back to Afghanistan and family ties were rejoined together. So now we have Americans actually in Afghanistan, and here's where things become complex. When you evacuate a country and you leave behind the people you were supposed to protect and the Taliban comes in, what do you think is going to happen? And this is why we now have hearings trying to expose what was left behind in Afghanistan because of the United States. That's just one point the Foreign Committee is trying to really harp on and bring to light. Again, this is a very complex and long situation because there were different promises at different times. Because when we allowed certain interpreters as American citizens, it was only a set amount. It wasn't everyone, and that was a completely different issue during about mid-2000s to early 2000s. Now, the second point, the veterans who are coming in and speaking to the American public and to the committee, they are essentially saying this was a terrible situation and you guys set us up for failure. Now, the intentions of the United States and all of the military members who were trying to evacuate people out of Afghanistan, it was to get everyone out of that country who needed to get out. But here's what the issue was. The Taliban gave a timeline to the United States. In fact, you almost have to give credit to the Taliban to even allow the United States, we're not going to harm you for the most part. Get people out of here now. This is your timeline. And if you don't meet that timeline, we're going to start hurting people. And that's why these veterans are pissed. You're asking military members to work side by side with the Taliban and figure out who the hell is coming out of this country. Now, according to the Foreign Affairs Committee, President Biden was notified and told this is going to be not a good mission, not a good look, and apparently President Biden went through with it. Now, who do we blame? President Biden, Commander-in-Chief? Do you blame the advisors who told Biden to stop? Do we blame President Trump? That is why this hearing is happening right now, but there is even more to talk about. We still have Americans stuck in Afghanistan. We have interpreters. We have families who we promised to get out of Afghanistan who can't get to the airport during the evacuation. So who do we blame here? We have actual U.S. citizens who are stuck in Afghanistan during the evacuation process, but it gets even worse than this. If it wasn't for non-profit groups to go into Afghanistan on their own dime and the State Department said, yeah, go for it, we would have way more people stuck in Afghanistan. If you are just realizing this for the first time, hear my words again. It took non-profits to risk their life going behind enemy territory to retrieve American citizens, interpreters, things like that. Now, one of the more emotional parts of this hearing would have to be the suicide bomber who took out 13 service members and hurt many other more. Now, we all know as service members, when you go to a foreign country, you trust your leadership to put you in a winning position. But the veterans who were speaking during this committee hearing, they did not feel safe or confident in what was going on. Okay, so I'm going to end this video here. Please leave your opinion in comments. I hope the biggest takeaway you get from this is that we are trying to get answers and accountability from this clearly failed evacuation. I want to hear more testimonies and I want to hear more stories to get the total picture. In fact, the committee is actually requesting we want more people to speak your opinion and let us know what happened during the evacuation. When that happens, I will continue this story and inform all of you.